Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Sunday morning. Already looking towards next week as Colorado heads on the road to Oregon, which is by far the most exciting game on that Saturday slate. We're talking about Alabama Ole Miss matching up, Florida State Clemson. Give me Colorado heading on the road to Oregon. And Dill, 12 months ago, I didn't think I'd be up till 2 a.m. Eastern time watching a Colorado Buffaloes game play Colorado State. It's exactly where I was last night. Absolutely. I mean, this is one of the most exciting storylines in college football. That being said, Colorado heading on the road to Oregon, by far their biggest task of the year. I'm excited to get into it. Now, before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys. The support for these game breakdowns truly has been incredible. Over 8,000 subscribers on the channel. Can't thank you guys enough for all the support. So one, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. But more importantly, let us know in the comment section how you guys think this game is going to go. The best part about doing these game previews are just talking ball with you guys in the comment section. So appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Dill, going to kick this one off to you. Colorado heading on the road to Eugene. Ruckus environment. How are we feeling?
I mean, this game, I think, is honestly so exciting because right now I don't think you have Colorado as like this Cinderella story. I think that narrative kind of needs to go away, and it just needs to be, well, you got a really good football team led by an exceptional quarterback, very good skill play on both sides of the ball. And this is a team that can go fight with almost any big team in the country, I think. And we're going to see it now because Oregon's going to be their first monster test. And it's not to say TCU and Nebraska are bad teams, but Oregon's the first team in that elite tier that they're going to see.
100% agree. I couldn't agree more with let's drop the Cinderella. And this is a good Colorado team. I think the first couple of weeks, oh my God, this is insane. What Coach Prime's done is and it is so impressive. This is let's drop that. This is a very good team
and
heading
also,
on the road.
Frankly, the way people are waiting for them to slip and be like, "Oh, I told you they're terrible." It's they're not.
You got the haters.
If they lose to Oregon, that doesn't make them terrible. They're off to a very good start. If you lose to Oregon, you lose to Oregon. Oregon's great. Everyone knows Oregon's great, but this Colorado team, I mean, it's here. They're a good football team, and Oregon's going to need to bring it if they're going to win the way they want to win.
Yeah, I want to get into kind of the matchup, and let's start with Colorado's offense going up against an Oregon defense that I think Dan Lanning's done a really good job. It was kind of choppy in 2022, and we said he's got his guys in the portal. It's looking like a better defense. That being said, the type of offenses that Oregon struggled with last year, and then quite frankly struggled a little bit with Texas Tech on the road week 2, is this kind of offense where we're spreading you out. We have a ton of playmakers on the outside who can work after the catch. I'm really excited to see if Oregon continues to make those strides and stopping a Colorado offense that, I mean, is one of the more high octane groups that we see across the country.
And for me, what I'm looking for from Oregon's defense is to play essentially 4 quarters very aggressive football, because you see when Oregon is playing aggressive and they're blitzing, they're getting after quarterbacks. I thought you saw them have some success against Tyler Shuck in that Texas Tech offense that I think is a very good offense. The one thing you obviously need to look out for is when the play breaks down, they need to find a way to handle that situation better, because Shuck, he was running, he was making plays out of the pocket. That was the one thing that was beating him. And frankly, you saw a little bit more of that from Sheduer last night, especially when it got into those second half of that game where he was using his legs. He was running for first downs. He was extending plays and finding his guys. That is the one worry I think you have here, Dan Lanning, in the Oregon defense, because that's been their one Achilles heel.
By far, that's the biggest talking point in this game is the Oregon defense, especially up front. It's a good group. Jordan Burch coming on, Brandon Dorless. You have guys who can be extremely disruptive, and they were disruptive against Texas Tech. When they struggled was not being disciplined in those rush lanes. And then when Tyler Shuck could get outside the pocket and extend plays, that's when Oregon was getting hurt. And Sheduer Sanders can do a very similar the job of that. And so if I'm Oregon, you don't want to lose that pass rush and being disruptive and getting those negative plays, but you also have to make sure, and I don't know if that becomes a spy technique or whatever they do, they got to limit Sheduer Sanders extending those plays, because again, when you give him time to get to find a guy open downfield, there's not one better that we've seen accurate pushing the ball downfield than Sheduer Sanders. So Oregon keeping Sheduer Sanders in kind of that pocket.
And that's the thing, because you got an Oregon defensive line that I think that's kind of what they can do. I mean, you look Brandon Dorless, Jordan Burch, big, heavy players. They're not necessarily guys who like to rush upfield. That's not how they necessarily win. So I do think if you can just kind of try to collapse pockets, and frankly, Colorado State did a good job at that at times, especially in the first half of that football game. And frankly, so did Nebraska, and that's when they were able to slow that attack down. But I think there's two things you don't want to see from Oregon. One is to kind of play a little lax defense, because when you don't get after Sheduer and he has any
he'll piece you up
there, he's ripping teams apart. You saw Nebraska get away from playing, or not Nebraska, but Colorado State got away from playing that aggressive style of ball at times in that football game, and Sheduer just he ripped him up.
I think that's like the you have a guy that is like so good until you saw TCU, the rush 3, drop 8, give Sheduer Sanders time. He's gonna just pick apart a defense. Now, the last thing I want to talk about with Colorado's offense is you got to start fast on the road. I mean, you're in the last 2 weeks, and one of the most impressive parts is like Sheduer Sanders has started out slow. That being said, in the second half, you talk about a gamer. Like, that's exactly what Sheduer Sanders is. That being said, rowdy environment at Austin Stadium. You have to be able to start a little faster and kind of get going and kind of maybe take this crowd out of it a little bit.
Well, especially because if you start that slow, I think against Oregon, that offense, when they really get going, I mean, they can run up and down the field. And I don't think Colorado's necessarily seen an offense that can kind of get going the way that I think Oregon can, because that team, very good rushing attack, and obviously Troy Franklin, Bo Nix can score like that almost.
Yeah, getting to the Oregon offense matched up against this Colorado defense for Oregon, and this is something we talked about with that Nebraska matchup. So what's the best way you can stop an offense, stop a high-powered offense like you see with Colorado? It's running the football and keeping that offense off the field, and there's not been a better team in the country at running the football than the Oregon Ducks, averaging 6.8 yards per carry, really good offensive line, staple backs. Bucky Irvin, I think, one of the better running backs in the country against the Colorado defense. That, I mean, if they have struggled on defense, it is stopping the run. I'm giving up over 5 yards per carry on the ground. Now, they got some guys up there, but that's probably where they're weakest. If you're Oregon, you're looking, trying to establish that line of scrimmage and establish that run game early.
And it will be interesting to see, because I do think Colorado's starting to find their guys, if you will. I mean, Juwan Mitchell played unbelievable at that linebacker spot, like beyond what I think we've seen. I mean, Shane Cokes looks like he's coming around in the middle, Jordan Dominic. So I think Colorado's starting to find their unit in that front seven, the guys who they need to do. And I do remember Coach Prime even saying it. He's like, we need to find who's going to be our linebackers and who's going to be the guys in that front seven who are going to be our staple guys. And I do think they might be getting close to that, especially with Juwan Mitchell.
I think they found Juwan Mitchell was a dude last night. And the second, like, kind of key to the game for Oregon that I have on my notepad is if you can establish that run game, and Colorado maybe needs to commit some safeties into the box to stop that run game, try to get off the field, is that when you can hit the deep shot? Because, again, one of the most slept-on position groups that I see across the country, and especially with Travis Hunter being out, and that's, I mean, side note, damn shame. I was really looking forward to the Travis Hunter-Troy Franklin matchup. This Oregon wide receiver group, one of the best in the country, right? Tez Johnson coming along, Troy Franklin, Holden, they're loaded there. And if Colorado wants to kind of crowd the line of scrimmage to stop this Oregon rushing attack, you're looking at another Heisman Trophy candidate on the other side, and Bo Nix, that can push the ball down the field, that has looked very good, completing almost 80% of his balls through 3 weeks. Can they hit those explosive plays once they can establish the run?
And
massive key in the game.
You haven't really seen it yet from Colorado. I mean, that defense,
really good in the back end.
And frankly, Colorado State and TCU, especially TCU, that's a team that in 2022, very explosive on offense. They had a bunch of good transfer portal wide receivers, and obviously Colorado was very able to limit big explosive plays. I mean, they gave up some plays in the run, that's for sure. But really, you haven't seen them get exposed like that in the secondary at all in terms of giving up big monster plays. Now, I do think that, like, the caveat to that is they haven't seen a
passing attack like this.
Exactly.
One of the things that I'm just so impressed with, I mean, there's like a laundry list of things that I'm impressed with Colorado. The secondary and kind of the communication and the continuity that they already have with pretty much everyone being transfers besides Trevor Woods. Like, Trevor Woods was supposed to be the continuity of this, but he's like the only guy who is from that last year's team starting on the defensive side of the ball. That secondary has been nails. And that's normally a position group that you're talking about. Okay, you got to give them some time to kind of mesh together. Like, they've been really, really good through the first 3 weeks, and we'll see if Oregon can kind of expose a secondary that I think is really good. Dill, getting to the pick, Colorado heading on the road, 15-point dogs at Oregon. How are we feeling about this game?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little surprised to see it that high. I'm surprised to see it above 2 touchdowns. I was kind of thinking maybe that 10-ish range is what my guess would have been. So to see it come in that high, I'm very surprised to see it. I do think Oregon's gonna. I kind of think they're gonna win this game. I think some of the struggles you've seen from Colorado, I think Oregon's in a little bit of a better position to take advantage of, and I do think they'll win, but to see it at 15, I'm very surprised.
Colorado absolutely putting the bookmakers in Vegas and just their minds in a pretzel. Like, they have no clue what to do with this Colorado team. They keep trying to kind of adjust for Colorado being way more surprising than they thought they would. That's kind of my take too. And this, again, the narrative is going to be, it's going to be frustrating. If Colorado loses this game, the narrative is, they weren't as good as we thought they were. No, this is an extremely good team in Oregon that you're going on the road to play. I think Colorado keeps it close. I'm definitely not betting against Colorado.
Well, that's the thing, because I think Colorado is going to score the ball, and frankly, you look, Sheduer Sanders, he is a gamer. They don't get phased. I get the sense they're just going to play teams tough because they're a composed football team. You haven't seen them let things spiral and things weren't going well at all for a good chunk of that Colorado State game, but you didn't see it get away from them at any point. They were still making plays. They were hanging on. And then when they got hot, they got really hot and started to roll.
When this offense clicks, it goes fast. It gets the ball out quick. I mean, it is one of the more high-octane explosive offenses that we see. This is going to be a phenomenal game in Eugene, Oregon. Fire the fellas up. Again, appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.